It's Momo Monday, your weekly dose of mental, emotional, and physical softness. So you know what to do. Breathe in. And out. And breathe in. And out. So something you may or may not know about Momo is that Momo has very strong opinions about music. And he tends to like female vocalists and gospel, but there are some exceptions. The first time I kind of noticed it was that Adele's Rolling in the Deep, and during that, that sustained note in the chorus, his pupils actually dilate in time to that note, and he starts doing the making mittens, the kneading of the paws and purring and all that stuff. And another song he does that too is Lady Gaga's Speechless. There's just something about the chord progressions in those songs that he really, really likes, and that is a way into the announcement Lady Gaga made on her website, her Born This Way Foundation website, disclosing that she has post-traumatic stress disorder from the Born This Way ball tour. She doesn't get into exactly what happened. That's not uncommon. She may not completely remember. There's this tendency to treat pop stars like these spoiled, entitled, wimpy artists. And the artist part's correct, but no matter what you think of their music, you can't deny that a professional performer's schedule nowadays is grueling. If people don't know what it's like, basically their day starts at, depending on the performer, sometime between 4:30 in the morning and 6 a.m. Because morning radio and morning television, you gotta be up and out by 7 o'clock, and you gotta be camera ready. People used to come in and just plop themselves in morning radio. Now you can't do that because there's webcams in almost every studio. And while some of these rockers will just roll out of bed, take a shower, and just plump there, they don't shave, they don't do anything. A pop act like Lady Gaga can't do that. They have to, uphold their image. And so it's a good hour and a half, 2 hours of prep right there with the hair and the makeup. And that's why a lot of performers have started wearing wigs, because then you can just go plump, and it can be styled by your stylist the night before, or they can be up before you. And so all that is required, it is put on your head and then either pinned or glued on. And so they will go doing press in a given city until 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. Then they'll go and do preliminary sound check. And then they'll go and take a nap until they have to do afternoon drive, 7 o'clock news pre-tapes, things like that. And then they do their show. And then, they wind down. Every performer takes a different time to, decrank. Some are up until 2 a.m. They just can't sleep. It takes them 3 hours to wind down from a show. Others, they get off the stage at 11. They do their meet and greets and stuff until midnight. They rip everything off. They shower really quickly and they drop. But still, that's a very disrupted sleep schedule. And a lot of them do not get 8 hours of sleep a night. So even the overall lifestyle is not terribly healthy. And then you've got the wear and tear on the body to contend with, and that is what Gaga is talking about with what happened with the Born This Way ball tour. And you could tell, she was so skinny by the time she finally announced that she was hurt. It was clear that, and I want to be clear, there are some people that are naturally thin, naturally even that thin, but you can tell. And Gaga looked gaunt. They covered it up with a lot of makeup, but she was emaciated. She looks much better now. But I had an issue with it at the time of her, preaching this message of, I'm on the right track, baby. I was born this way. And her physicality indicated that she clearly wasn't. And so, and that's not body shaming. That's an indication that she looked unhealthy. I really want to be clear about that. It's amazing how little control those massive celebrities have over their brand. It's so huge at that point. You really have to put your trust in people you don't know terribly well and hope for the best. And obviously it didn't go so well for her. She did require hip surgery. I remember that after that tour. But it sounds like she worked in pain for quite a while, and that's really debilitating. I mean, most major pop stars perform hurt in one way or another. You've probably heard about, the big voice, the belters ending up with nodes on their vocal cords a lot, just from wear and tear. You can't sing like that night after night after night and not do damage. I mean, that's one of the things about the video game voice actors' work action is that the sessions are too long. They're not allowed to properly prep because they don't see the lines until they get in there. And the funny thing is, your body gets used to it, but your faculties, not necessarily a mental capacity, but sort of your awareness of your surroundings is what really suffers. You don't remember what city you're in. You don't remember who you're talking to. You start blanking on names. And it was a 2-year cycle I found when I worked at Much Music with pop princesses, that they'd come in these bright, sparkly, shiny lights, and within 2 years they were zombie face. And it's just the lifestyle. And I want to pivot from this because it's like, okay, great, Gaga's talking about PTSD. How does this apply to me? Well, the holidays are coming up. And even if you don't have an official diagnosis, I don't know of anybody that doesn't have some holiday-related trauma, because the expectations surrounding the holidays are so heightened. And the outcomes are often so disappointing that a lot of people are left starting the new year feeling very empty, which is why I think a lot of people go out and get raging drunk on New Year's Eve. And I wanted to talk about this now, not closer to Christmas, because I think I'm going to continue to talk about this throughout the holiday period because it is important. You absolutely have the right to set your own expectations, boundaries, schedule, all that stuff for your holidays to make it as pleasant for you as possible. And it should be pleasant because really, putting all the religious stuff aside, what a light festival during the dead of winter, which is essentially what all these various holidays revolve around, is that they recognize it's cold, it's dark, people go into various stages of quasi-hibernation during the winter. It is supposed to be an emotional pick-me-up in the shortest days of the year. That's why it hinges on the winter solstice. And a lot of people don't give deference to that, and they run around and they do all these things that they think matter very much, they've been trained matter very much, and really don't matter. If you only have 2 sides instead of 3 at your holiday dinner, it really doesn't matter. And anybody who complains about it, if you can, don't invite them next year. There was this, I remember this Jessica Valenti article, I think it was Jessica Valenti, about the patriarchy of wrapping gifts. And I'm one of those people who personally, I enjoy wrapping gifts, But there's this point in time, and I know it's coming now, so I plan for it, where those last few is like, oh God, it's 5 a.m. Now I plan in advance that either I do a lot more gift bags than I used to, or I start wrapping a lot earlier. Or what I've been doing more and more is if there's a lot of individual items, I will put them all in one box and just wrap that box instead of wrapping all these weird shaped things. Because you can assembly line wrapping squares. That's super easy. It's those little stupid toys, kids' toys. Ugh, they go in boxes. There is no oppression in wrapping gifts. You only take on as much as you're willing to take on. And this is why I prefer cats to people. Because cats get this, I think, unfair reputation for being the assholes of the animal kingdom. It's just that cats have very strong personal boundaries. And so if a cat likes you, that's because a cat likes you. Not like a dog, you took them to obedience training and you got them to obey you. That's not the same as liking you. But people have a lot of ulterior motives and a lot of less than pure reasons for pretending to like each other. And there are a lot of very, very smart people who watch this channel. And they're not just smart in the sense that they can crunch a lot of numbers. But I find gamers, as a rule, are bullshit detectors, are really finely tuned. And, you know, there's the stereotype of gamers being these socially awkward nerds, but I've found with the gamers that, you know, I consider friends, they're usually quite emotionally tuned in, and they avoid social circumstances because they can't deal with the insincere BS that, you know, comes with it. Games usually are quite honest in the fact that there is a solution to the problem. It's, even when it's deliberately trying to fake you out, it's doing it with the assumption that there is a solution to this, you know, get good sort of thing. And social circumstances aren't like that. And for a lot of people, those going home for the holidays things are things faced with dread, not happiness. And so the holidays are not serving the purpose that they're supposed to. And this is why I'm going to try to do a lot of stuff on self-care over the holidays, because you hear a lot, and even in Lady Gaga's letter, or support systems, and they're so important. And, well, there's a lot of people out there and a lot of people listening to this who don't have support systems. And, you know, I say this from personal experience. What do you do if you need a support system and don't have one? And the glib answer is get one. Easier said than done. You know, real friends are exceptionally rare. This becomes a real issue for people struggling with a feeling of being valued. And that was part of my own rebuilding process when I got diagnosed, that it was actually a cop that first said to me, your friends are not helping you. And that's the thing about that I've learned, and it's not something that's talked a lot about harassment, stalking, all that stuff, is how third parties enable and facilitate the stalking behavior and the harassing behavior. Harasser can't do it unless they get help from something. And it was hard because I'm an introvert. I don't make friends easily. I have a very high bar of what I consider a friend. And the idea that I would have to get rid of all these people who I had spent years kind of coming to trust. And the tricky thing about trust is you recognize that no one is a perfect person. Everybody has their foibles. And it's really tough sometimes to determine whether that that flaw is something that's only hurting them, or it's something that is hurting you as well. And if you determine that it's hurting you as well, do you accept that? Is that something you can deal with? Is that something you can sort of diffuse? Or is it really causing trouble for you? And for me, it was causing trouble for me. Some people would find that to be, oh, that's going to be depressing. And you think it's going to be terrible when you're making the choice to do it. But when it's the right choice, it actually feels like a weight's been lifted from your shoulders. And this is just to give you a bit of meat on the bones so that it doesn't sound like I'm giving you platitudes when I'm telling you it's okay to walk away. As long as you're not alone on those milestone days, as long as you're doing something that makes you happy, even if it's playing video games, because anybody who's playing a video game is not alone. It's, as long as you're not on Facebook complaining about how horrible your life is, or you're not on Twitter complaining about how horrible someone else is, because those are the two distinctions between those two social medias. Or you're not on Instagram posting attention-getting selfies, then do what is going to give you that light and nourishment in the darkest days. It doesn't have to be the thing that everybody else thinks you should be doing. And easier said than done. I know there are some people that are not going to understand. And if coming back from severe trauma has taught me anything, it's that if people give you a lot of pushback on something that you need, and there are needs that go beyond food and shelter and all that. I need a period of quiet during the day, just so I can hear myself think. If I'm constantly around people, if I'm constantly around noise, I get really irritable. So I need that period of just, right? Like Mountain Monday, like Momo Mondays. I used to be Mountain Monday. I know I need that. Not everybody does. Not everybody has that same requirement. I do. And I owe it to myself to recognize that and take that time. And some people see that as time you're doing nothing. You're not being productive. You get all these sort of self-care shaming. I know that's a thing. But you start hearing you're selfish, you're irresponsible. There's all these things. No, people don't ask you why you're doing something before they judge the action as being somehow bad. And those are the people that you have to find a way to put them on their own shelves. You are not somehow a failure because someone in your family isn't giving you what you need from them. But then you still are not getting your needs met somehow. And then what do you do about that? Well, this idea of a support system is a really tricky thing, because it is possible to go through these things with a minimal support system, provided you have other outlets, art, music, gaming. If it makes you feel energized instead of tired, that is your support system. A lot of you guys are very independent thinkers, and you're very high level in that way. And I think that's part of the struggle, is you go back and you do these holiday events with family and, family of origin type stuff, and it just seems banal. It just seems like it doesn't matter. It's about nothing. It's usually the same conversation in a slight variation that people have every single year. So hopefully that begins to help. I probably should have started this before Thanksgiving, but our Thanksgiving is in October, so it's not the same up here. But I will continue this leading up to the holidays because I hope it's helpful. Let's do a breathing to close out. Breathe in. And out. And breathe in. And